Hello and welcome to this video presentation on dementia signs and symptoms. In this presentation we're going to look at the concept of dementia. We're going to get and review the different types of dementia. You've already seen the videos earlier on in this topic section, and we're going to review some of those and expand on some of those in this short presentation. Then we're going to look at the different types of dementia, the stages of dementia, and some of the symptoms associated with each stage, and the impact that these have on the individual. It's important to say that dementia is a very personal experience, and it does vary from person to person. So no two dementias really are the same. It's important to recognize that. There's no blueprint, if you like, for dementia. Before we do that, we're going to look at the whole concept of dementia, and we sometimes use this picture here when we're trying to explain dementia to small children. It shows a picture of a tree, and a tree with, you can see a face there on the left hand side. The trunk is strong, the leaves are green and healthy looking, but there is a fluttering away of some of the leaves in the brain part of the face and skull. So that signifies dementia. The person on the outside looks the same and looks healthy for a lot of the time, but inside there is a deterioration in brain activity, and that's symbolized by the leaves fluttering away. In terms of a definition for dementia, just to go over what we've said before, dementia is an umbrella term used to describe various conditions which damage brain cells and lead to a loss of function over time. This has an impact on the person's memory, language, ability to communicate, mood and personality. And as we've seen, there are many different types of dementia. Dementia is a progressive and unfortunately irreversible condition. So, as I said, dementia will vary from person to person, and it will vary depending on the type of dementia that person has. So let's look at some statistics regarding dementia in Ireland. Alzheimer's dementia is the most common type of dementia in Ireland. 50 to 6% of all cases of dementia in Ireland relate to Alzheimer's. Vascular dementia is probably the second highest form of dementia in Ireland, according to the statistics from 2012. It accounts for between 15 and 20% of all dementias. Less frequent is Lewy body and frontotemporal dementia, and we've already had some videos earlier in this session looking at each of those and the particular characteristics of them. It's important to look at the human brain and the different parts of the brain, because different parts of the brain are responsible for different functions, and loss of cells or damage in each particular part of the brain will influence the type of symptoms that your loved one may have with their dementia. So the frontal lobe is responsible for planning and decision making, emotions and problem solving, and obviously if that part of the brain is affected, then it affects the ability to make decisions, it affects emotions, it affects cognition. The parietal lobe, which is in purple there, is used in the brain for information processing and perception. The temporal lobe is used for memory and language. The occipital lobe is used for vision, colour recognition, and the cerebellum is used for balance and coordination. So obviously if there's damage in each of those particular parts of the brain, it will lead to symptoms associated with that. Dementia, as we've said, is a progressive condition. So you can see there that our tree is changing on the left-hand diagram there, and that's associated with the deterioration in the pictures of the brain in the right-hand side of the diagram. So in terms then of symptoms, It's important to say that these symptoms aren't a blueprint, as we've said before. In the early stages or initial stages of dementia, you will notice mild memory loss with your loved one. They will have challenges in planning or solving problems, difficulties completing familiar tasks, confusion with time and place, difficulties following conversations. They might misplace objects and lose the ability to retrace steps. They might have decreased or poor judgment. They might have slight changes in mood and personality. They may lose interest in certain activities, and they may have visual and spatial difficulties. In the early stages of dementia, these symptoms will be mild, usually mild. So basically, mild and infrequent is what I would say in the early stages. When we get then to the moderate stage or middle stage, then some of these symptoms become more acute, more noticeable and more serious. So there could be repetition, asking the same questions over and over again, with communication difficulties. There could be increased confusion about recent events. They might forget details in their life, including their address and phone number. You'll notice more frequent poor judgment about health, finances or safety. They'll have trouble maybe putting their clothes on in the right order. The person may believe that certain things are real when they are not real to us, so they might have visions or slight hallucinations. They might suspect you of lying, cheating or stealing from them. They become anxious or irritable, and they may present with difficulty sleeping and may wander. So these, as you can see, are more difficult and more severe symptoms than in the early stages. Again, I emphasize it's not a blueprint, and it's sometimes difficult to recognize the change between the stages, and how long each stage will last depends on each person and on their environment and on a number of other factors. In the late stage then, things become very severe indeed. Your loved one may no longer remember their life history. That's very common. Their physical abilities will be affected and they won't be able to carry out tasks. They'll have trouble controlling their bladder and bowel. They might not be able to recognize family and familiar faces. And they'll require 24-hour assistance, most likely. And their communication will be very limited to only a few words. So this is extremely difficult, obviously, for yourselves as their loved one and their carer. And it's a very challenging time for you all. So what we've done in this short presentation is we've identified the different stages and symptoms of dementia, and we've looked at the impact of those symptoms. In the next session we'll discuss changing relationships.